I'm gonna seed some start trays today. The weather has been like, you know, in the 50s outside during the day, Fahrenheit, and we've actually been getting, though, a number of days in a row where it's been freezing at night. The forecast has been in the high 30s, but where we're located is higher off the water, so we kind of get some colder temperatures. So I'm going to do some kale. I'm also going to do some basil because it's been consistently warm enough in the greenhouse that they'll be fine germinating in here, I think, during the day, but I may need to take the flats of basil up to the house at night. And I was also going to do some onions, like scallions, and they would probably be fine in the greenhouse during the day germinating, but they may also need to go up to the house at night. Okay, so I've got my 8 flats filled with soil mix, and I'm going to take them down to the swamp to bottom water them. It's been 7 days since I seeded the Salanova lettuce, and it is still not up. So I was really curious, so I kind of dug down into one of them to see if they were even sprouting, and sure enough, one had its little root growing, but it's still, you know, obviously they're not up. They're supposed to be, you know, they're supposed to germinate 3 to 5 days. So I'm a little bit concerned that I planted them maybe too deep. I just kind of took some soil and put it over there and then watered them in. And usually I'm a lot more careful. I have a stick here that has 1/4 inch measurements on it, and I kind of push the seeds in and then just kind of close it up. And what concerns me is oftentimes if it takes a little while for seeds to germinate, then this soil mix can kind of skin over a little bit, and I think they have a harder time pushing up through, or that's what it seems. Gosh, you know, it's funny, I'm doing this out here. I'm going to seed these this kale, onions, and basil, and it's actually cozier in the greenhouse today and a little bit chilly outside. I'm going to plant the basil first, so hopefully I can kind of get in the greenhouse and get a little bit warmer. Then I'll do the other varieties next. Soil depth, they say, needs to be 1/4 inch, so that's what I'm going to do with my little stick gauge dealy bob. It's just a popsicle stick that I've whittled down, and it's got 1/4 inch increments on it. That is the basil seed, right? Push it down 1/4 inch. Got all 3 done. And I'm just not, usually I kind of pinch the soil over the top. Just gonna pinch it together, but I think I'm just gonna kind of water it in over the top. Oh, I got pulled away doing a bunch of different things. So now I'm back doing the Italian kale, and these seeds are much more reasonable size than the basil seeds. Okay, that was the 3 flats of Italian kale. You know, I was thinking, it's not like the kale seeds are so much bigger than the basil seeds. It's just they kind of have a little bit of color to them, and the basil seeds are black, so it's just so hard to tell where they are compared to the soil. So now I need to seed some, what I said in previous videos was a red boar kale, but it's actually a scarlet, it's called scarlet kale. Normally I put 2 seeds in each cell for kale, and I hope I don't regret just doing 1 per cell, but they germinated pretty good last time, so I just did 1 seed for the Italian kale. But the red kale, or the scarlet kale that I did last time, it grew really great once it was planted out and everything, but it just didn't germinate very well. Of course, you know, it could be just the batch of seeds that year, so I don't know, but I think I'm going to double. I'm going to go ahead and put 2 seeds in each cell for the scarlet kale, and then I also need to do the scallions. Okay, I got the scarlet kale seeded. I decided to go ahead and pinch the tops, the soil together over the seeds for the ones I already did and these, because the hole's kind of gaping. I'm a little concerned that the seeds are going to dry out. Ran out of water, but this is wet enough that I'm just going to go ahead and put them in the greenhouse for the night and just water them tomorrow. I I think we're gonna call that a day.
I decided not to seed the scallions this time because I need to figure out a better way of improving my makeshift nursery.
Okay, so I have my stick here. I'm going to mark this out as 3 feet because I'm going to do a 30-inch bed plus just a 6-inch pathway. All right, I got my little bit of seine twine right here. Can't see it because it's brown. Okay, and then I'm gonna pull the other end and stake it out.
Okay, I got each of these little rows staked off and staked off at the end here as well. Here is my wheelbarrow full of kale stalks.
Last fall, Tyler and I went out to the shoreline and got a ton of seaweed and threw them into these bins. Normally what I would do with a compost pile is I would, fill it up and then let it sit for a whole year so that it would really break down into more of a soil consistency. Last season I did use some partially composted seaweed and it really worked great on the gardens. This soil is soil that we brought in from elsewhere and it's just kind of like forest bottom soil. And so for probably a couple years I'm going to need to kind of get some nutrients in there, till that in deep, and then in the future be able to kind of be more like Broad Fork and Tilther and that sort of program. I already pulled some of the seaweed out of this bed. There was about 2 feet. I want to see how much I can get onto the garden beds from just 2 feet of partially composted seaweed. So this is just a really super dense rotted pile of seaweed. I think I'm going to keep my pathways at 6 inches because I've always had such small gardens that I just wanted to have as much growing space as possible. But that means that you kind of have to mince your way down through the path. And when you're harvesting, it means your butt is bumping up against crops in the other bed, or at least my butt does. So in the future, I'd really like to have 12-inch pathways. Okay, check this out, you guys. Got some lettuce coming up. It's been 10 days, but they're coming up.